Good morning. Happy New Year. Jackie Broman here at TBA Law, and it's my first Facebook Live for the year, so I will try and do these again every Monday at about 10 o'clock. Now, with the fires burning throughout Victoria and New South Wales so early in the season, I hope that people are being as sensible and safe as possible, and although it's a fairly cool day today, it'll be hot again by the end of the week, and no doubt throughout central Victoria, we'll be out facing our own fire dangers more likely throughout February and March. So it's a time to be thinking about being prepared, having the things that we need to take in an emergency ready to go, particularly your important papers. So think about your marriage certificate, birth certificate, passports, insurance policies. So have all those in a separate folder, perhaps as a grab bag ready to go. I certainly tend to carry those things with me in my car, and I've got electronic copies of them as well. Which brings us to the topic today, which is your digital estate. So most people can't escape from having a digital estate these days. If you're on Facebook and you're watching this, you've got an account with Facebook. So you're on that platform. And what you're probably doing as well is uploading all sorts of photos. There are lots of photos these days which are digital and that we don't print. So those are held as a digital asset. And business owners, we're told to build a personal brand. We have LinkedIn accounts more than likely to. We have websites, web addresses. We have accounts with cloud servers like Dropbox or Google Docs, where a lot of the things we're creating and our intellectual property is not printed, but it's held as a digital file. Which has some value. It's an asset. So as well as protecting these things, we also need to be thinking about, what happens to these things if something happens to us, and we don't want the value just to disappear and be lost. We also don't want our accounts, like our Facebook account or our LinkedIn account, to be controlled by someone that we don't want it controlled by. We may personally want it to be closed down or memorialised. You get that choice. And so you want the person who has control of your digital estate, if something goes wrong for you, to be someone who is aware of your wishes. Now, I literally wrote the book on this topic too, Social Media and Death, although it's more complex than just social media. Particularly with photos, because your loved ones are probably going to want to recover your photos from wherever you've got those stored, whether it's an Apple Cloud, whether you're uploading them to Facebook. I put a lot of mine in Dropbox. But the problem with all these accounts is that most of them are not Australian companies, for starters. So they're a US company, and the United States of America does not recognise our powers of attorney or our probate. So the other thing that US companies do, mainly for tax purposes, is that for any people using their services that are not in the US, they have a subsidiary company in Ireland, of all places. So it's actually the European Union laws that apply to Australians using Facebook, for example. And the European Union as well does not recognise our powers of attorney. At least they have a better recognition of an executor under a grant of probate, but they won't necessarily acknowledge that the accounts of the deceased person should transfer to an executor. So what do? And this is what I do as part of the estate planning process. I make sure that there's a specific clause in all my powers of attorney and my wills that those specific powers are conveyed into the executor role or the power of attorney role, so that no foreign company or government can say that it wasn't considered and the power hasn't been transferred. So we specifically provide for it, and then that way, if something happens to you, the people you've appointed don't have to go through a rigmarole and potentially a European Union tribunal to try and recover assets and documents that you've got stored in a cloud, or to be able to take control of your Facebook account and download the photos from it and then memorialise the account, or various other things where we store our digital estate these days. So, complex area of law with a potentially very simple resolution. Unfortunately, a lot of lawyers don't consider it though. So it's just something that we regularly do for our clients, and you don't have to specifically even address specific accounts or leave passwords, because our clause builds in the power to recover a password as well. So, bearing all that in mind, and again, coming back to the fires, it is a great idea to have a copy of your driver's license, your birth certificate, your passport photo into your phone, and then maybe a photocopy of that also stored in another digital file somewhere, in case of an emergency, in case you're at work and you can't get home to get your documents if there's a fire. So some of those crucial things are available to you, because after the Black Saturday bushfires, there were certainly lots of people who struggled getting new identity documents and proving who they were. So at least if you have those things available to you, if there is an emergency, it's one less thing to worry about. So do stay safe, and I wish you a happy and prosperous 2020, and I'll see you next Monday.